Matt Laslo, I learned about you on July 13th with your article titled UFO Whistleblower, Meet a Conspiracy-Loving Congress. What drew you into pursuing the UFO issue as a journalist, and what are your personal beliefs about this topic?
See, personal beliefs, que sera, sera. Like, personally, as a journalism professor, when I read journalists, if I even sense their beliefs, I usually just like walk away. What made this one stand out, honestly, as a congressional junkie who's covered Congress for 17 years and has always been advocating with lawmakers like, hey, you're the first branch in the Constitution. Why don't you stand up and take, some of the war powers back from this White House or that White House? So the second part of this whistleblower's claims piqued my ears. What are you talking about? There are these secret programs hidden from Congress. And that's actually what really piqued most lawmakers' interest as well, even ones who are never into the UFO or UAP phenomenon. His claims just stand out.
So Representative Anna Paulina Luna of Florida and Tim Burchett of Tennessee plan on holding a UFO hearing. Do you know when that will happen, and do you have any idea who will be questioned during it?
I don't. I know, and I'm dropping this actually another day, but whatever. Media is funny these days, but Burchett tells me he wants the hearing before the August recess. Right now, they're on a 2-week July 4th recess, as if they deserve a 2-week vacation. Not these lawmakers specifically, just Congress in general. So once they get back from that break the week after the July 4th, there's, I think, only 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks until they take the whole month of August off. And so Burchett wants it in that window.
And you don't know who will be questioned during that hearing?
Oh, they want the whistleblower. And as we do know, Senator Gillibrand, obviously over in the Senate, she wants to hear not just from him, but then all the other people mentioned in
Dave Grusch and other people that haven't come forward publicly, but are also whistleblowers.
Yeah, and so what I presume is going to happen, just from what I've seen in the past with Congress, I don't know where he lives, but usually they'll do something kind of in tandem because they don't want to waste the witnesses' time, or any of the witnesses. So if they bring them all in, I'm curious. I don't know this, but I'm curious if the Senate and the House talk together and try to do them either back to back. We've seen that with Facebook, or even sometimes it's the same day. Zuckerberg will be in the Senate in the morning and then goes to the House in the afternoon. So what I'm curious, my question when lawmakers get back is, hey, are you guys, Gillibrand and Burchett, are you guys now coordinating with the witnesses?
So 3 weeks ago, the debrief.org dropped the David Grusch story, followed up by Ross Coulthart's interview with David Grusch. From what I see, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, and MSNBC still haven't covered this story. Do you have any insight into why you think that is? And do you think they should be covering it? Should the media be covering it more in general?
Well, I can't speak for the infotainment networks. I'm even a little offended that you mentioned them while you're talking to a journalist. Little wry. Like, I'm friends with good people at Fox. One of my mentors, even a public radio mentor, is the Fox News producer at the Capitol, like their main one. And then I work in the same suite in the radio TV gallery with all the CNN folks and MSNBC folks, etc. So, yeah, I don't dare speak for them because even most of the reporters I know or producers I know don't dare speak for them because at a certain point they become powerless. Just something about the corporate infotainment, Hollywood-esque, shall I say, way they operate. Yeah. I'm curious. I wonder if some of them actually did web write-ups, but of course they're going to be timid to bring it on air. Which, again, to answer your second part of your question, the thing that sticks out to me is the claim that there are secret programs hidden from Congress. And what I got today, which to me is the bigger smoking gun, even though it's not blowing up the internet like the Gillibrand announcement that she's going to have actual hearings, the fact that the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, who won in 2008, same time as Obama, he's been in office since 2009, moved up the ranks. He's now Senate Intel Chair. But he says in that short window of time, from 2009 till now, he knows the programs that the federal government has hidden from Congress. He gives them a little bit of the shadow of the doubt, and he says, oh, I don't think they meant to keep it secret. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, if I were a lawmaker, and this is probably why I'm not a lawmaker, but I would be furious with the White House, any White House, whether an R or a D in there, and I would not stop pounding on that door. The interesting thing with those folks, once you get on the intel committees, that's because you're trusted, not just as a team player, because the intel committees historically don't fit the normal hyper-partisan vein that Congress slides into so well. It's been sad to see the Intel Committee, especially in the House, become hyper-partisan of late, you know, with Adam Schiff, whether you love or hate the guy, having him censured it was kind of a new low for Congress, because it's just like if you're in the courtroom and like you lose the court case, but then you become the judge later, you don't go back and like say, oh, that defense attorney lied. You know, it's just, it's supposed to be different. And so here I'm in, just remain super I guess what I was trying to say is, so the leaders pick those people, the head of, you know, the Intel Committee in the House or Senate, they're picked because they're trusted by the leadership higher up. And the leadership higher up, I presume, probably vets them with the White House or, you know, the White House of their party. So that's where hearing Warner say that he's, that he knows of SAPs, secret programs that were, in his words, accidentally or whatever, hidden from Congress. To me, that's just a bombshell that, because what? Warrantless wiretapping, which is also on Congress's plate right now, reauthorizing the 702 program. That, the top of the Senate Intel Committee and the party leaders, House and Senate, they were all read in on that. They couldn't speak about that publicly. And the Intel committees themselves, they got read in on that eventually. So they knew about it. They couldn't talk about it. That's where I'm intrigued on this one, because the Intel members are talking about it. The chair of the Intel is talking about it, and even saying, oh, I know of government programs that were secret from Congress, but we now know about them. And he leaves the door open. What did he say? I believe he said, I hope not, when I asked if there were SAPs, you know, these secret programs that the federal government, the bureaucracy, is hiding from Congress. He didn't say, no, of course not. He said, I hope not, which was him signaling to the federal government and the whole Intel community, hey, wake the fuck up, because I'm not watching. And if you are lying to me, all right, and I'll give you this breaking news. Ranking Democrat in the House, Jim Himes, head of, or the top Democrat on the Intel community over there, 2 years ago, when they got briefed by, you know, those two hearings they had, when Congress dragged those officials from the Pentagon in, he asked them specifically, do you have any craft? Do you have any inorganic material or organic material? They both emphatically said no. So what he's looking for is, all right, did those two lie to me under oath? And that's where everyone's pulling the strings, and I'm just looking to see what that sweater looks like in the end.
Okay, so today on Twitter, Chris Mellon wrote, Congress's determination to investigate credible reports that the U.S. government has recovered off-world tech is immensely important. I'm confident that if they continue on this path and obtain the data already provided to the Inspector General of the intelligence community, the truth will come to light. Do you agree with that sentiment? Do you think the truth will come out if the Congress does what it needs to do?
No, because that would presuppose that we have an effective and functioning Congress. My overarching thing, like I'm a professor at Johns Hopkins and some other schools. I teach on new media's impact on government. My biggest critique of this Congress is that instead of them being focused on good policy, and uncovering the truth, etc., this Congress is what I call it, a body full of pop politicians. Like, they're literally there for the cameras, for fundraising. So no, I have no faith in this Congress. But I even have to be a devil's advocate with myself and my own cynicism. This is interesting because here we have, this does not fit your normal hyper-partisan channels. Dems on the left, ours on the right. Right now we have Senate controlled by Democrats who Senator Gillibrand says she's full bore ahead with her investigation. She wants to hear from him. Well, the farthest flung right members of the House, the Freedom Caucus folks, they're in charge of the investigation over there, but with the blessing of Speaker McCarthy and Oversight Chair James Comer. So this might be the most bipartisan issue in Washington these days. So that's where I'm just sitting over here nibbling popcorn.
What is your plans with your, I think you launched your new Substack today. It's called Ask a Paul, as in Ask a Politician. What are your plans for it going forward?
Well, so I started off opening it up. Like, the idea has been in my mind for a while. And actually, I got it from one of my Patreon followers. I started the Patreon a year or so ago, but never put my foot on the gas and retooled things. But an eBuddy was like, hey, you should get the site name Ask a Poll. So right now I opened it up at first to UAP, UFO folks. But I also have the different subcategories in there, like, hey, if you want to talk about drug policy and mass incarceration, which Congress doesn't like to talk about because even Dems like Schumer and Pelosi have perpetuated this myth of the war on drugs. Sorry, I've been a drug policy reporter for Playboy, Vice News Tonight, Daily Beast, etc., Rolling Stone. So I've always covered issues that other people aren't covering. So that's where I was like, ooh, I just gained a few hundred UAP followers. So I'm like, you guys are hungry. I've got questions, or I've got the ability to ask your questions. So, hey, you guys feed me info. Let me start asking. And so I hope that naturally, cannabis folks will get in there. Even I cover cryptocurrency for Wired magazine. Crypto doesn't get enough coverage. All these banks collapsing, a couple months ago? No one's talking about them. That's where, I want to be the conduit to Congress. Because this town is broken. This Congress is broken. Hey, let's try to bring the people's voices back into it. Or into it for the first time, maybe.
So I know you're pessimistic about Congress policing SAPs that are hidden from them, but do you know of any efforts underway that Congress is engaging in to get to the bottom of this, or any details on that? Have they started any aggressive investigations into that yet?
Well, and that's the interesting thing. Because my overarching question, and I've asked lawmakers this, like Senator Warner, chair of the Intel, if you knew about these programs, you would have to lie to me, right? And so that's where this is interesting and a little bit sticky, because us as the public, we can't fully trust what the intel community tells us. Supposedly that's for our own protection. That's the national security mantra that the government's told us for years, decades, and over a century. And so, yeah, it's interesting now. They're sniffing, and any good investigation or like final conclusive report starts with someone somewhere sniffing. And so the fact that we have lawmakers hungry for this, the fact that in the House, leadership is given basically carte blanche control to two members who are believers already, that spurs things on. The fact that the Senate, which is in all likelihood elected to be more skeptical and to give you, more space or insulation to do big deep dives, the fact that they're truly intrigued by this, I don't know. We got both chambers full bore. So again, I'm sitting back asking questions, but I'm watching. And I got no predictions because, for one, they're politicians and they lie. Both sides. For two, this feels pretty unprecedented, at least in my close to 2 decades covering these fools.
Thanks, Matt. Let my audience know where they can find you and if you have any last words.
My handle is at Matt Laslo, just like Casablanca, Victor Laszlo, the Hungarian freedom fighter, Laslo. Yeah, follow me, stay in touch. The main thing I'm trying to do with the new Substack, which is totally a work in progress, is get your feedback. So if you got questions, my DMs are open. Tell me what you know and become a part of that community. And then maybe I'll be asking your question to Congress sooner than later.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the show.
Dude, appreciate you.
Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.